The alert pinged at 2:47 a.m. Emma's sharp chime that sliced through the silence of Emma Carter's Palo Alto apartment. Her laptop, balanced precariously on a stack of cybersecurity journals, glowed with a single red notification. Unauthorized access detected. Secure server. Guardian Shield. Timestamp 2:46 and 32 seconds. Emma's heart lurched. She shoved aside a half-empty mug of cold coffee and pulled the laptop onto her lap, her fingers flying across the keyboard. The server was her sanctum, a digital fortress she'd built to house Guardian Shield, her life's work. No one at Nexus Innovations, not even the CEO, had clearance to touch it. "Who the hell are you?" she muttered, her voice barely a whisper in the dim room. The logs loaded, revealing an IP address she recognized. Nexus's executive network. Someone in the C-suite was poking around her system, and they weren't subtle about it. Emma's pulse quickened as she traced the intrusion. The attacker had tried to copy core Guardian Shield files, but tripped a silent alarm she'd coded 6 months ago, a precaution born of instinct rather than evidence, till now. She leaned back on her couch, the city's sodium glow filtering through her blinds. Palo Alto was supposed to be her fresh start, a place where ambition met opportunity. 18 months ago, she'd walked away from a cushy job at Microsoft, lured by Nexus Innovations' promise of freedom to innovate. Her creation, Guardian Shield, was no ordinary cybersecurity tool. It was a predictive AI that could sniff out attack patterns before they fully formed, neutralizing threats with surgical precision. For 80-hour weeks, she'd poured her soul into it, coding in Nexus's sleek labs, fueled by takeout and adrenaline. And now, someone was trying to steal it. Emma's phone buzzed, snapping her out of her thoughts. A text from Sarah Evans, assistant to Nexus's CEO, Ethan Blake. "Ethan wants a progress update tomorrow, 2 p.m. Don't be late." The timing felt too convenient. Emma's eyes narrowed. Ethan, with his tailored suits and disarming smile, had been her biggest cheerleader, dropping by her lab with vague praise. The boards thrilled Emma. "You're changing the game," but his eyes never matched his words. Always calculating, always watching. Was he the one behind the breach? She saved the logs, encrypted them, and sent a copy to a private cloud server she'd set up off Nexus's grid. If Ethan, or whoever this was, thought they could outmaneuver her, they were in for a surprise. Guardian Shield wasn't just a program. It was an extension of her mind, built to anticipate threats, external and internal. 6 months ago, after a gut feeling that Nexus's startup sheen hid sharper edges, she'd woven safeguards into the code, traps for anyone who tried to tamper with her work. Tonight, those traps had caught something. The Nexus Innovations campus sparkled under the California sun, a glass and steel monument to Silicon Valley's relentless hustle. Emma pulled into the parking lot at 1:30 p.m., her beat-up Prius a stark contrast to the Teslas and Porsches gleaming around her. She adjusted her glasses and smoothed her blazer, a rare concession to corporate polish. Her demo was ready. Guardian Shield had aced its latest test, neutralizing a simulated attack so sophisticated it mimicked nation-state tactics. The AI hadn't just blocked the intrusion, it had identified vulnerabilities she hadn't even programmed it to detect. It was learning, evolving, becoming something even she hadn't fully predicted. Inside, the lobby buzzed with the energy of a startup on the cusp of greatness. Coders in hoodies darted between meetings, while venture capitalists in crisp blazers sipped oat milk lattes. A massive LED screen looped Nexus's tagline, "Innovate, protect, prevail." Emma's stomach churned. She'd believed in that mission once, but last night's breach had cracked her trust. As she rode the elevator to the executive floor, she rehearsed her pitch, her mind split between pride in Guardian Shield and suspicion about Ethan's late-night snooping. Sarah greeted her at the reception desk, her smile as perfunctory as her bob. "He's ready for you," she said, gesturing to Ethan's corner office. Emma nodded, clutching her laptop like a shield. The office was a study in minimalist power, floor-to-ceiling windows, a polished oak desk, and a single abstract sculpture that probably cost more than her annual rent. Ethan stood by the window, his silhouette sharp against the Palo Alto skyline, but he wasn't alone. A woman in a navy suit sat at the conference table, her posture rigid, her eyes locked on Emma. "Emma, come in," Ethan said, his voice smooth as ever. He flashed that signature smile, the one that had charmed investors and employees alike. "You know Lauren Mitchell, our legal counsel?" Emma's pulse spiked. Legal counsel? This wasn't a progress update. She forced a nod, settling into a chair across from Lauren, whose expression was as warm as a server rack. "Good to see you both," Emma said, her tone steady despite the alarm bells in her head. "I've got the demo ready. Guardian Shield's latest test was a game-changer." Ethan waved a hand, his smile tightening. "We'll get to that. First, we need to discuss something else." He slid a document across the table, its pages crisp and ominous. "There's been a concern about your employment agreement." Emma's fingers tightened on her laptop. "Concerned?" she echoed, her voice calm but edged with steel. "I've delivered every milestone on time, Guardian Shield's exceeding expectations." Lauren cleared her throat, her voice clipped and devoid of warmth. "Section 12.4 of your contract, Miss Carter, states that any intellectual property developed using Nexus Innovations resources belongs exclusively to the company." Emma's mind raced. She'd read the contract, negotiated it herself. Standard IP clauses were par for the course in tech, but Guardian Shield wasn't just a product of Nexus's servers. It was her brainchild, conceived years ago in her Seattle apartment, long before she'd set foot in Palo Alto. "I'm aware of the clause," she said, meeting Lauren's gaze, "but Guardian Shield's core concept predates my time here. I have documentation, notebooks, timestamps, even early prototypes." Lauren didn't blink. "While you may have had a rudimentary idea, the functional system was built on Nexus's time with Nexus's resources. That makes it ours." Ethan leaned forward, his charm slipping like a mask. "Let's be clear, Emma. Guardian Shield is Nexus property. The board believes your compensation package is more than fair for your contribution." Emma's breath caught. "Compensation package?" she asked, her voice low, dangerous. Ethan's smile was thin, predatory. "Your contract includes a success bonus. You'll receive $300,000, 0 cents, once Guardian Shield launches. That's generous by industry standards." The number hit like a slap. $300,000, 0 cents for a system worth billions. For 18 months of relentless work, sleepless nights, and a vision that could reshape cybersecurity. Emma's hands curled into fists under the table, but her face remained neutral. "Generous," she repeated, letting the word hang in the air. "And what happens next?" Ethan's eyes gleamed. "Tomorrow, I'll present Guardian Shield to our biggest investors. We're expecting $75 million, 0 cents, in funding. After that, we announce Nexus's groundbreaking cybersecurity solution to the world." Emma's mind spun. He wasn't just stealing her work. He was erasing her from it. She glanced at Lauren, whose pen tapped rhythmically, a metronome of corporate indifference. "So, you're firing me," Emma said, her voice flat. Lauren sighed, as if bored. "We're transitioning you out, effective immediately. With your bonus, of course." Ethan leaned back, his smirk that of a man who'd already won. "Congratulations, Emma. You've done great work." The room seemed to shrink, the air thick with betrayal. Emma's heart pounded, but a strange calm settled over her. They expected her to fight, to scream, to beg. They were prepared for resistance. What they didn't know was that she was prepared for them. 6 months ago, Emma had noticed an anomaly in her server logs, a fleeting access attempt that left no trace. She'd dismissed it as a glitch, but her instincts, honed by years in cybersecurity, screamed otherwise. So she'd built a trap, a silent alarm buried in Guardian Shield's code, designed to flag any unauthorized access. When it triggered last night, it confirmed her worst fears. Someone at Nexus, likely Ethan, was circling her work like a vulture. From that moment, she'd fortified Guardian Shield, not just against external hackers but against internal threats. She'd coded fail-safes, backdoors, and a particularly nasty surprise, a protocol that would turn the system against itself if it detected unethical behavior. If Ethan thought he could waltz in and claim her creation, he was about to learn how wrong he was. Back in the office, Emma forced a smile, her mind racing through her options. She could fight. Legally, her documentation was solid and a good lawyer might tear Nexus IP claim apart. She could walk away, start over, build something new. Or she could play their game and win. Her eyes flicked to Ethan, his smugness a challenge she couldn't ignore. "Of course, Mr. Blake," she said, her voice smooth as glass. She handed over her laptop, knowing it contained nothing they could use without her. "Good luck with the investor demo tomorrow." Ethan's smile faltered, just for a second, as if he sensed the trap but couldn't place it. "Security will escort you out," he said, gesturing to the door. Emma stood, her movements deliberate. As she packed her belongings under the watchful eyes of a burly guard, she felt the weight of her cardboard box, a prop in their corporate theater. But she wasn't leaving empty-handed. Deep in Guardian Shield's code, her surprise waited, set to activate during Ethan's precious demo. She smiled to herself, imagining the chaos it would unleash. That night, Emma sat on her couch, a takeout container of pad thai cooling on the coffee table. Her phone lay silent, but she knew it wouldn't stay that way. At 9:30 p.m., it rang. Sarah's voice was curt. "Ethan wants to see you. It's urgent. A car's on its way." Emma's lips curved. So it had begun. She glanced at her laptop, where an encrypted file held Guardian Shield's logs, proof of Ethan's breach, timestamps and all. Whatever happened next, she was ready. As the car sped toward Nexus's glowing campus, Emma leaned back, her mind sharp with anticipation. Ethan thought he'd cornered her, but he'd underestimated one thing. Guardian Shield wasn't just a tool. It was her creation, her ally, designed to protect itself and her from threats like him. The game wasn't over. It was just getting started. The black SUV glided through Palo Alto's empty streets, its headlights cutting through the fog like a predator's eyes. Emma Carter sat in the back seat, her reflection a ghostly blur in the tinted window. The Nexus Innovations campus loomed ahead, its glass facade glowing faintly against the night sky, a beacon of ambition now tinged with menace. Her phone buzzed, a single line from Sarah Evans. "He's waiting. Don't keep him." Emma's lips twitched. Ethan Blake, the golden boy of Silicon Valley, was unraveling. She could feel it, the same way she'd felt Guardian Shield's algorithms hum to life under her fingertips. Tonight he'd learn what it meant to cross her. The driver, a stone-faced man in a cheap suit, said nothing as he pulled up to the entrance. Emma stepped out, the chill biting through her blazer. The campus, usually buzzing with coders and venture capitalists, was a ghost town at 10:15 p.m. The LED sign flickered. "Innovate. Protect. Prevail." She snorted softly. Protection was her domain, and Ethan was about to discover how thoroughly she'd guarded it. Inside, the lobby was dim, the air heavy with the sterile scent of lemon cleaner. Her sneakers squeaked on the polished floor, the sound echoing in the silence. A security guard materialized, his badge glinting under the emergency lights. "Ms. Carter," he said, his tone clipped. "This way." Emma followed, her pulse steady but her mind racing. 24 hours ago, she'd been escorted out of this building, her belongings stuffed in a cardboard box, her life's work stolen. Now, Ethan needed her. The irony was delicious, but she wasn't here to gloat. She was here to reclaim what was hers, and to make sure he never forgot it. The elevator climbed to the executive floor, each ding a countdown to confrontation. Emma's thoughts drifted to Guardian Shield, her creation. It wasn't just code. It was a sentinel, designed to predict and neutralize threats before they struck. 6 months ago, when she'd caught Ethan's digital fingerprints on her server, she'd realized the greatest threat might come from within, so she'd built safeguards, not just against hackers, but against betrayal. Last night, those safeguards had triggered, and now Ethan was scrambling. The doors slid open, revealing the conference room. Its sleek table reflected the city skyline, a glittering backdrop to the chaos about to unfold. Ethan sat at the head, his tie loosened, his hair disheveled. The polished charm that had wooed investors was gone, replaced by a man teetering on the edge. His eyes, bloodshot and wild, locked onto Emma as she entered. "Fix it," he snapped, his voice raw. The door clicked shut behind her, the sound final, like a guillotine. Emma took her time, settling into a chair with deliberate calm. She crossed her legs, her gaze steady. "Fix what, exactly?" "Don't play games, Emma." Ethan slammed his palm on the table, the sound reverberating. "You sabotaged Guardian Shield. The test run crashed the entire system, flagged threats that don't exist, generated thousands of false positives. It's unusable." She tilted her head, her expression one of mild curiosity. "Sabotaged? Ethan, I've been gone for a day. Security watched me pack my box. I didn't take a single device, didn't touch a single system." System. Touch a single system. She paused, letting the silence sharpen. "Sounds like a technical issue. Have you tried turning it off and on again?" His face flushed, veins pulsing at his temples. "This isn't funny. We have 12 major investors flying in tomorrow, $75 million on the line. If this demo fails, Nexus is finished." "Your investors," Emma corrected, her voice ice. "Your system. Your problem." Ethan's jaw clenched, but he leaned back, forcing a semblance of control. When he spoke again, his tone was smoother, the salesman re-emerging. "Look, perhaps we were hasty yesterday. I'm prepared to discuss a more equitable arrangement. Co-creator credit, a larger compensation package, maybe even some equity." Emma's lips curved, but her eyes were steel. "Equitable," she echoed, savoring the word. "Tell me, Ethan, what exactly happened during the test run?" He hesitated, his fingers twitching toward his phone, before he caught himself. The system turned on itself. It flagged Nexus's own network components as threats. Then it started spitting out reports, hundreds of them, about internal ethical breaches. "It's like it's gone rogue." She couldn't suppress a smile. "Rogue? No. Ethan, Guardian Shield is doing exactly what I designed it to do. It identifies threats wherever they originate. During development, I fed it case studies, cyber attacks, insider threats, corporate espionage. It learned to spot patterns, even ones you'd rather it didn't." His face paled, the realization dawning. You taught it to spy on us." "I taught it to protect," she said, her voice low, lethal. "It's been watching Ethan. Every unauthorized access, every copied file, every keystroke, it's all documented. Tensmo's logs, IP addresses, including yours, from 6 months ago, when you thought you could sneak into my server unnoticed." The silence was suffocating. Ethan's eyes darted to the door, as if expecting rescue. None came. You can't prove anything," he said, but his voice cracked. "I don't need to." Emma leaned forward, her words precise. "Guardian Shield already has. Those reports? They're detailed. Every move you made, every file you touched. And they're not just on your servers, they're backed up where you can't reach them." His hands trembled, but his gaze hardened, a cornered animal baring its teeth. "What do you want?" Emma folded her hands, her calm a stark contrast to his unraveling. Full recognition as Guardian Shield's creator and primary architect, 50% ownership of all related patents and intellectual property, a board seat to oversee its ethical implementation, and $10 million for your attempt to erase me. Ethan's laugh was brittle, desperate. That's extortion. No, she said, her smile cold. That's negotiation. Extortion would be sending those reports to your investors, or the SEC. He stared at her, the fight draining from his eyes. Then, with a shaky exhale, he reached for his phone. I need to make a call. Emma slid a small flash drive across the table, its matte black surface catching the light. Before you do, consider this. It contains an authentication update for Guardian Shield. Install it, and the demo runs perfectly tomorrow. Without it, the system stays locked, flagging your every move as a threat. A gesture of good faith, Ethan, for our new partnership. And he froze, his hand hovering over the drive. And if I refuse? Then Guardian Shield remains broken, she said simply. Your demo fails, your investors walk, and those reports find their way to some very interested parties. For a moment, she thought he'd fight back. But then, with a defeated slump, he grabbed the drive, his knuckles white. You planned this, he muttered. All of it. Emma stood, smoothing her blazer. I hoped it wouldn't come to this, but after I caught you in my server, I built protections for Guardian Shield and for myself. You underestimated me, Ethan. That was your mistake. As she turned to leave, he called after her, his voice low, almost a growl. This isn't over, Emma. You think you're untouchable, but there are people bigger than me, people who won't let you walk away with this. She paused, her hand on the door, a chill running through her. His words carried a weight she hadn't expected, a hint of something, or someone, lurking in the shadows. Then tell them, she said, her voice steady, that Guardian Shield sees everything. The next morning, Nexus Innovations buzzed with a frenetic energy. Investors in tailored suits mingled with tech journalists, their voices a low hum under the lobby's soaring atrium. Emma stood at the edge of the crowd, her new title, co-founder and chief technology officer, still sinking in. The flash drive had worked just as she'd promised. Guardian Shield was ready, its algorithms humming in perfect sync, but Ethan's warning gnawed at her. People bigger than me. Who was he protecting? Or fearing? Ethan took the stage, his smile polished but brittle. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, his voice carrying over the crowd. Today we unveil Guardian Shield, a revolution in cybersecurity. And I'd be remiss not to credit its visionary, Emma Carter, whose brilliance made this possible. The applause was thunderous, but Emma's eyes locked on Ethan's. His nod was curt, his gaze flickering to a man in the back, a silver-haired figure in a charcoal suit, his presence commanding despite his silence. Emma's stomach twisted. She didn't know him, but his stare felt like a scalpel, dissecting her from across the room. The demo began, a holographic display projecting Guardian Shield's interface. Simulated attacks. Ransomware, DDoS, zero-day exploits flashed across the screen, each neutralized with elegant precision. The crowd gasped, then cheered, as the system predicted threats before they materialized, its adaptive defenses rewriting the rules of cybersecurity. Emma's chest swelled with pride, but a nagging doubt lingered. The silver-hailed man hadn't clapped. He'd watched her, not the screen. As the demo ended, investors swarmed Ethan, their questions a flurry of dollar signs and timelines. Emma slipped away, her phone buzzing with a Guardian Shield notification. Authentication restored. Threat neutralized. System integrity secured. She exhaled, but the relief was fleeting. Another message followed, this one anonymous, sent from a burner email. You're playing a dangerous game, Ms. Carter. Step carefully. Her fingers tightened around the phone. A prank? A test? Or a warning from Ethan's people? She saved the email, her mind already dissecting its metadata. Guardian Shield wasn't the only system that could hunt threats. 3 months later, Guardian Shield was a global phenomenon. Its first commercial deployment had thwarted a cyber attack on a major banking network, averting $340 million, 0 cents, in damages. Headlines hailed Nexus as the gold standard in cybersecurity, and Emma's name was synonymous with innovation. But success came with a shadow. The anonymous email hadn't been a one-off. Twice more cryptic messages had arrived, each vaguer but more ominous. Power like yours attracts enemies. The board isn't what it seems. Emma sat in her new office, a corner suite with a view of Palo Alto's rolling hills. Her desk was cluttered with prototypes and coffee mugs, a stark contrast to the sterile elegance of Nexus's executive floor. She'd insisted on keeping Guardian Shield ethical, embedding guardrails to prevent misuse, transparency protocols, user consent mandates, and limits on surveillance. But the system was evolving faster than she'd anticipated, its predictive algorithms uncovering patterns she hadn't taught it. Last week, it had flagged an obscure server in Shenzhen as a threat, linked to a shell company she couldn't trace. When she'd asked Ethan about it, his response was too quick, too rehearsed. Probably a glitch. I'll have IT look into it. She didn't buy it. Ethan was hiding something, and the silver-haired man from the demo, whom she'd learned was Victor Lang, a reclusive tech mogul with ties to Nexus's board, was at the center of it. Lang's public profile was sparse, but whispers in Silicon Valley painted him as a kingmaker, a man who funded startups only to gut them for profit. Was he Ethan's puppet master? Or was Ethan a pawn in a larger game? Emma's thoughts were interrupted by a knock. Sarah poked her head in, her usual briskness softened. The public offering event starts in an hour. You're speaking. Ethan's orders. Emma nodded, her mind elsewhere. The offering valued Nexus at $4,200,000,000, 0 cents, a triumph she'd earned. But triumph felt fragile when threats lurked in the code, and in the boardroom. The ballroom at the Four Seasons was a sea of champagne flutes and power suits. Investors, journalists, and tech luminaries mingled under chandeliers, their laughter a veneer over the cutthroat deals being struck. Emma stood at the podium, her black dress understated but sharp, her glasses catching the stage lights. The crowd hushed as she began, her voice steady, resonant. 3 years ago, I dreamed of a system that could protect the world from threats we couldn't yet see, she said, her eyes sweeping the room. Guardian Shield is that system. Not just technology, but a promise. A promise to adapt, to defend, and to hold power accountable. But it's only as strong as the people behind it. So my challenge to you is this: build systems that evolve, that protect themselves and their creators, and never, never let anyone take what you've built. The applause was deafening, a wave of admiration and awe. Emma's heart soared, but her gaze found Victor Lang in the crowd, his expression unreadable. Ethan stood beside him, his smile forced, his eyes darting to Lang like a dog awaiting a command. She stepped off the stage, her triumph tempered by a growing certainty. Nexus wasn't hers, not fully, not yet. A young developer approached, her eyes bright with ambition. Miss Carter, what's the secret to building something like Guardian Shield? Emma smiled, her words deliberate. It's not the code. It's the will to protect what's yours. Build systems that adapt and defend themselves, but always, always watch your back. The girl nodded, inspired, but Emma's attention shifted to her phone, buzzing with a new Guardian Shield alert. Unidentified process detected. Predictive anomaly. Creator protections active. Her breath caught. The system was learning, evolving beyond her inputs. Was it warning her, or preparing for a threat she couldn't yet see? As the crowd toasted Nexus's success, Emma slipped out to the balcony, the night air cool against her skin. Palo Alto glittered below, a city of dreams and daggers. She opened her laptop, pulling up Guardian Shield's logs. The anomaly was faint, a whisper in the code, but it pointed to a server she didn't recognize, one tied to Victor Lang's empire. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, her pulse racing. Ethan's betrayal had been the first battle, but the war was just beginning. And Guardian Shield, her sentinel, was ready to fight